Good day, everyone. I'm Dr. L. Jayanti Rebecca, Professor and Head, Department of Agricultural Biotechnology. I'm going to handle the paper on biotechnology of biotic and abiotic stress tolerance. Today's topic is biotic and abiotic stress in plants. Let's see an overview of what I'm going to present. First is the definition of plant stress, then the difference between plant stress and strain, then certain important terminologies, then the difference between biotic and abiotic stress, and finally the different plant pathogen interactions and its consequences. What is plant stress? Plant stress is a state where the plant is made to grow in non-ideal growth conditions that alters its optimum physiological, biochemical, and morphological parameters. According to Grime, 1979, stress is defined as a phenomenon that limits the crop productivity or destroys the biomass. The effects of stress can lead to deficiencies in growth, crop yields, and permanent damage or death if the stress exceeds the plant tolerance limits. So plant stress have been classified by ecologists, physiologists, and agronomists into two major categories, biotic and abiotic. What is the difference between stress and strain? The adverse reaction of plants to environmental conditions that are unfavorable to growth, development, and productivity is called as plant stress. So any environmental factor capable of inducing a potentially injurious strain in plant is called the plant stress. On the other hand, strain is the biological changes in plant under the influence of the plant stress. So certain important terminologies related to stress and strain. So again, stress is nothing but the external factor acting adversely in an organism. The strain is any physical or chemical change produced by a stress. What are stress factors or stressors? So the factors that cause injury or the stress stimulus is called the stress factor. The stress response is the stimulus with ensuring the state of adaptation. What are the types of strain? Elastic strain is an irreversible physical or chemical change produced by a stress. Plastic strain is an irreversible physical or chemical change produced by a stress. What are the stages of the physical stress? Eustress, distress, and the zero stress. Eustress is the activating, stimulating stress that increases the physiological activity of a plant and thus a positive element for a plant development. The opposite is the distress. It is a severe and a real stress that causes damage and thus has a negative effect on the plant and its development. Zero stress is a stress that is very insignificant or insufficient to produce a plastic strain. What are the types of resistance? Stress resistance and elastic resistance. The ability of a plant to survive under adverse environmental condition is termed as the stress resistance. It might be in the form of adaptation, avoidance, or tolerance. The elastic response is the ability of the plant to prevent reversible or elastic strain, either physical or chemical change, when exposed to a specific kind of stress factor. This photograph shows the different biotic and the abiotic stress factors. So abiotic stress factors are the heat, cold, drought, salt, metals, and the flooding. So these stress factors, they cause lots of damage to the plants, and the plants also have certain mechanism to cope up with these abiotic stress factors. Similarly, the biotic stress factors are the pathogens, insect, and the herbivores. So again, once again, here also the plant has certain mechanisms to cope with the biotic stress factor damage. This is the flowchart of the abiotic stress. So environmental stress, if you take, it is classified into two, abiotic and the biotic. If you take the abiotic stress, you have temperature, water, radiation, chemical, and the wind, sound, electricity, magnetic field, etc. If you take the temperature, you have low temperature, high temperature, or cold or heat stress. And under this low temperature, you have again chilling stress and the freezing stress. If you take water, you have both deficit of water, which leads to drought, and excess of water, which leads to flooding. Then you have radiation, again chemical. If you take, you have the salt stress or ionic stress or gases or herbicide stress caused due to the use of herbicides or the insecticides. Next is the biotic stress. Biotic stress is caused by living organisms, especially viruses, bacteria, fungi, nematode, insect, arachnids, and weeds. The agents causing the biotic stress directly deprive the host of its nutrients and can lead to the death of the plants. Biotic stress can cause major impact because of pre and post harvest losses. The biotic stresses are a major focus of agricultural research due to the vast economic losses caused to the cash crops. The relationship between biotic stress and plant yield affects the economic decisions as well as the practical developments. The abiotic stress factors are heat, cold, drought, salt, and heavy metals. They largely influence the plant development and crop productivity. To cope with the abiotic stress, plants initiate a number of molecular, cellular, and physiological changes to respond and adapt to such stress factors. This picture shows the different effect caused by the abiotic stress on the plant metabolism. So first of all, we'll see the high light and the heat stress. The high light and heat, it causes the membrane damage and photorespiration that leads to the ROS accumulation. ROS is nothing but the reactive oxygen species. Heat and drought stress often occur simultaneously, causing additive damage to the plants. Next is the cold stress. The cold stress also alters the membrane properties and affect the enzymatic activity. The frost damage causes the severe damages to the plants and causes necrosis. The drought stress causes the osmotic stress and stomatal closure and inhibits the photosynthesis, which leads to the ROS accumulation. Again, next is the toxic metals or the metalloids, which creates these cytotoxic effects via a variety of different mechanisms, such as production of ROS, blocking of the essential functional groups in biomolecules, and displacement of the essential metal ions from the biomolecules. Next is the flooding stress. Flooding stress also causes hypoxia, programmed cell death, and oxidative stress, and sometimes it inhibits the nutrient uptake and the metabolism. Salt stress, it also causes osmotic and ionic stress, which leads to ROS production. High salinity decreases mineral nutrient uptake, further stressing the plant. The pollutants like ozone and sulfur dioxide causes acid rain, directly damage the leaves and induce the oxidative stress. UV radiation also causes growth inhibition, morphological changes, inhibition of photosynthesis, changes in ion permeability of thylakoid membranes, and at the level of the pigments. So in general, if you take all these stress factors, they lead to the production of ROS and finally the oxidative stress. Next is the plant pathogen interactions. The contact between plant and pathogenic microorganism lead to a particular chain of events in the plant organism. Communication requires a mobile systemic signal. So interaction, it leads to the two types of response, compatible response and incompatible response. The pathogen is an agent that causes the infection or disease, especially microorganisms such as the bacteria or the protozoa or a virus. Now the plant microorganism interaction. Why we have given it as a microorganism here? Because when you take the microorganism, you have both pathogenic as well as the beneficial organisms. So to differentiate between that, let's see first of all the general interaction between a plant and a microorganism. So there are 4 different types of plant microorganism interactions. First one is the microorganisms having symbiotic relationship with the host. Example, rhizobium. So this is a very good association. Next, we have the microorganisms that cause the disease in plants. So this is a pathogen. The host plant may be resistant to a pathogen, though it invades the host plant, resulting in no disease. Next is the host plant may show some tolerance to infection, that is, the pathogen can grow and replicate in the host plant, but symptoms of infection are minimal. So pathogens in general are of two basic types, necrotrophs and the biotrophs. The hemibiotrophs are a class of biotrophs. If you take the necrotrophs, they are organisms which kill the host and feed on the contents, producing a toxin. Example are bacteria and fungi. Biotrophs, in other case, they require a living host to complete the life cycle. Example, virus, which is an obligate biotroph. Hemibiotrophs, which are initially biotrophic, then they shift to become the necrotrophs. Example, bacteria and fungi. Let's see some of the examples of necrotrophs, biotrophs, and hemibiotrophs. So here, necrotrophs, if you see, you have gray mold, this Botrytis cinerea, vascular wilt, Fusarium oxysporum, and soft rot Sclerotinia. Biotrophs are maize mud, Ustulagomedes, then black stem rust of cereals, Puccinia graminis. Hemibiotrophs are potato late blight, Phytophthora infestans. Let's see the concept of resistance to pathogens. Some organisms are pathogenic to some plants, but not others. There are two extremes of disease resistance exhibited by plants, that is non-host resistance and host resistance. Non-host resistance. Non-host resistance is when an entire plant species is resistant to a specific pathogen. This resistance is conserved across the species at the molecular level. So this is used by biotechnologists to transfer disease-resistant genes to susceptible plants that producing transgenic plants for disease resistance. Next is the host resistance. Host resistance is exhibited by a single cultivar of a plant to a specific pathogen. Other members of the species might be susceptible to the particular pathogen. This resistance is due to interaction between a single plant protein and a single protein from the pathogen that leads to the hypersensitive response that blocks the spread of the pathogen. The types of pathogens and their disease symptoms. First of all, we see the prokaryotes. Members of the Phytoplasma group, namely the Mycoplasma, which lack a cell wall and survive as saprophytes or as intracellular pathogens. They are the classes of prokaryotes which are pathogenic. The disease caused by Mycoplasma is Astarello and is spread by the insect vector Aster leafhopper. Killing the leafhopper can control the disease. It can infect the wheat, barley, potato, flax, etc. Bacteria. Bacteria can enter the plant only through wound or through the stomata. The bacterial pathogens are Agrobacterium, Corynebacterium, Erwinia, Pseudomonas, Xanthomonas, and Streptomyces. The symptoms are galls, cankers, spots, blights, wilt, and soft rots. Next is fungi and water mold. Fungus constitute a vast majority of the pathogenicity in plants. They can cause damage in the standing crop as well as after harvest. They produce aflatoxins resulting in the food poisoning. They also enter the plant through wound and through stomata. Fungal pathogens are Fusarium, Bipolaris matus, Phytophthora, Puccinia graminis, Rhizoctonia solanae, etc. The symptoms are scab, wilt, blight, root rot, rust, black spot, etc. Virus. Virus enter the plant through insect vectors like aphids and leafhoppers. Common pathogens are rice virus, tomato spotted wilt virus, cassava African mosaic virus, etc. Symptoms are stunting, mosaic, leaf curling, etc. Next is the natural disease resistant mechanisms in plants. Plants don't have an immune system like animals, but they have adopted more general defense systems that are similar to the immune system in animals. Plants have systems that respond to the specific signals. There are 4 different levels of defense that contribute to resistance in plants. First is the anatomical defense, and the pre-existing protein or the chemical defense. Then you have the inducible defense and the systemic defense. The anatomical defense. This is the first level of defense constituting the thick layers of protective material such as the cuticle, bark, or the wax material. Once this level is breached due to wound or any external injury, the next level gets switched on. The next level is the pre-existing protein or the chemical defense. This level of defense consists of a wide range of antimicrobial proteins produced by the plant during growth and development, including the defensins and the defensin-like proteins. These defensins are present in seeds during germination and are released in the environment to protect the young seedling from fungal attack. These defensins are again toxic to the pathogens. Next is the induced system. This is the third level of defense. The third level of defense relies on de novo protein synthesis of useful defense-related enzymes. All the defense systems are not turned on simultaneously. There are mechanisms to detect infection and turn on levels one at a time. This response, or the inducible response, is divided into 3 parts. First is the local response involving interactions between molecules released by the pathogen. These are called the elicitors. Next is the recognition-dependent disease resistance based on an interaction between the specific proteins produced by the pathogen, that is the A virulence gene product, and the protein produced by the plant, which is called the resistant gene product. These interactions between the AVR gene product and the resistant gene product leads to a cascade of events called the hypersensitive response. The third one is the induction of a systemic resistance and the passage of signals to the other plants. The third level in this case can be considered as a fourth level of defense system. So this picture shows the cellular response to a pathogen attack. Here you can see on the top you have the pathogen and below you have the host cell. So here in this photograph you can see the toxins produced by the pathogen in the form of cell wall degrading enzymes and the race non-specific elicitors. They are producing the elicitors, and the pathogen has the AVR gene or the A virulence gene product. When it comes to contact with the plant, host plant, immediately it will produce the elicitors. So plant also will produce certain type of elicitors. The exogenous elicitors produced from the pathogen. Now inside the plant, you have the resistant gene product R. This resistant gene product and the AVR gene product will from the pathogen will form a complex. If both are available, then there is no disease. Similarly, you can see the PR proteins or phytoalexins or cell wall synthesis genes. These are also a type of mechanism, defense mechanism produced by the host cell. Next is the elicitor response. So this one is it's an interpretation of the picture which you have seen earlier. So in the first phase, there is a damage to the plant cell wall, causing the release of cell wall fragments such as the pectic oligomers. These pectic oligomers, they act as signals or the endogenous elicitors, and they bind to the specific receptors, leading to a cascade of reactions triggering the induction of specific defense genes that code for enzymes that synthesize structural components for cell wall thickening to repair the damage, and the enzymes of secondary metabolism. Then they produce lectins, which are the sugar binding proteins that agglutinate the cells, that or join the cells, and the pathogenesis related proteins or the PR proteins. The PR proteins, they include the chitinases and the beta-1,3 glucanases, protease inhibitors, non-specific lipid transfer proteins, ribosomal inhibitor proteins, and various antimicrobial proteins. The cells may also produce phytoalexins like phenolic compounds and terpenes that kill pathogens, as well as the cells in the vicinity of the infection, thereby limiting the spread of the pathogen. Next is the recognition-dependent disease resistance. Harold Flor developed the gene for gene hypothesis, which states that disease resistance requires two complementary genes. The pathogen carries the A-virulence AVR, which codes for a protein that is recognized by a specific receptor protein in the plant cell, encoded for by the resistant gene. This interaction induces the HR, which is manifested as a local necrosis that develops through a mitochondrial associated NADPH dependent oxidative burst that releases the phenolics and the nitric oxide. The activation of signaling pathways leads to the induction of many ER-related proteins. The important feature of this recognition system is that if either of the proteins in the sense the AVR or the resistant gene product, AVR is from the pathogen, the resistant gene product is from the plant. If either of these proteins is absent, then the pathogen will cause disease in the plant. So this is depicted in the following picture. Here you can see the pathogen cell and the plant. The first case, you can see the plant is having the resistant gene product and the pathogen has the A-valence gene product. So here in this first case, you can see the plant is resistant or the disease is not caused by the pathogen. But in all the other three cases, you have, and the second case, you have the resistant gene product, but there is no AVR or A-valence gene product. The third case, you have the A-valence gene product from the pathogen, but there is no resistant gene product from the plant. The fourth case, both are absent. Both the A-valence gene product as well as the resistant gene product, both are absent. So in all the later three cases, you have disease, but the first case alone, the plant is resistant. Next is the systemic response. This is the last response in the plant's defense mechanism. The induction of local defense pathways may lead to the induction of the intercellular signals that produce a systemic response termed the systemic acquired response. Both avirulent and virulent pathogens may result in the induction of SAR, but it is slower in case of the virulent pathogen. The SAR has two phases, the initiation phase and the maintenance phase. In the initiation phase, the cells at the areas of infection release the signal molecules, mainly the salicylic acid, into the phloem. These are transported to other parts of the plant where SAR genes such as the PR proteins are expressed. Thus, it gives the plant some level of resistance against the infection. Later, the maintenance phase is reached that may last for weeks or even the full lifetime of the plant, in which there is partial steady state resistance against the virulent pathogen. There are other types of disease resistance not involving the salicylic acid, but uses ethylene or the jasminic acid. This type of resistance is called the induced systemic response. These result in the induction of different classes of defense proteins. The signals carried by volatile chemicals like your methyl jasmonate or the ethylene can travel between plants to warn of an attack. So this picture depicts the induction of SAR. So here you can see a plant And in this plant, the infection is in one portion of the leaf where the fungus has invaded. And there we have the necrosis. Local necrosis has occurred due to HR. And in the lower portion of the plant, you can see the induction of the salicylic acid. So salicylic acid is traveling from the lower portion, and it has passed through the phloem region and is present inside the entire plant. So systemic infection is it's a response by the whole plant. It is not localized. It is by the whole plant. Initially, the disease occurred in a particular region of the plant, but that particular portion started defending against the pathogen. But later, the whole plant itself begins to defend against the pathogen. The SAR is a mechanism of induced defense that confers long-lasting protection against a broad spectrum of microorganisms. Then it enhances the resistance against subsequent attack by a wide array of pathogens. The vasculature provides the external channel for transport of systemic signals. Vasculature in the sense the phloem and the xylem. The SAR induces the chromatin modification. Pathogen recognition triggers a number of rapid cellular responses, including the ionic changes and the phosphorylation cascades, which precede the accumulation of the reactive oxygen species, nitric acid and salicylic acid, and the transcriptional activation of the defense-related genes. Salicylic acid also has a key role in establishing local and systemic resistance to many virulent biotropic pathogens. The systemic signals are mobile signals that help in the activation of SAR. Mostly the metabolites function as systemic signal, contributing to a long distance signaling in the plant defense. Next, we'll see the communal resistance. So far what we have learned is the resistance within the same plant. Now this communal resistance is between the neighboring plants. So here or in a community of plants. So plants can communicate with neighboring plants through the production of volatile signals like the methyl jasmonate or methyl salicylate, which activates the defense genes in the neighboring plants. So example is methyl jasmonate. It can induce production of protease inhibitors in the adjacent plants. So these protease inhibitors can inhibit the attack of the insect pest also. So in a summary, that we have discussed today about the definition of stress in plants, then types of stresses in plants, then the types of plant pathogens and the plant pathogen interactions and the interaction between various microorganisms, and finally the different stages of defense mechanism in plants and the significance of SAR. Thank you.